All right, welcome back, YouTube viewers, if it's your first time seeing me in a while. Uh, I am going to be doing a guide to how to beat all of the challenges in Dome Keeper. It's going to be a fairly comprehensive video. The aim is to be more detailed than my tier list video, talking about each of these, but not so detailed as to be you watching me play 16 entire runs. So aiming somewhere in between there, what I'm going to actually do is start by going over some basic Dome Keeper strategy. And when I say basic, like it's still probably useful even if you've played this game a bit. And then I'm going to talk about these guild rewards, the order that I would take them, and get into the details of each of these assignments and how I would approach them. All of my tips are going to be assuming that you're playing as the engineer. If you want to play assessor, I am sending you my thoughts and prayers. However, the majority of people will be playing as engineer, and it is going to be easier for most of these challenges for the vast majority of people. I used laser for most of these challenges, but you can use any of the 4 weapons. And I'll talk about where it actually matters in some of these challenges, which weapon you use. Did I cover it? Is that good? I'm gonna get into it. So let me just load into a run here on Iron Contribution. I'm just gonna start on this one because I don't want to be in combat at first. So just my general tips. So basically, I view it as 3 general mining strategies in this game. And hold on, I gotta drink water. Very important. Most people, I think, starting out are going to start with a sort of strip mining approach where you just mine in a straight line across like this. I mean, obviously you would get these resources. But so the 3 styles of mining in my mind, at least at first, are horizontal lines going across, or what we call strip mining, going sort of based on the density of the rock, which kind of referred to as psycho mining sometime. Not meant to be offensive, but the idea being that if you mine in these spots where it's less dense, which you can tell by the graphics and the colors on the materials, you can save yourself some time mining. The downside is when you're coming back up, you could end up with a sort of snaking and convoluted path, and your resources are going to get stuck on ledges and all sorts of things. Let me restart here since I'm not actually demonstrating anything in particular. So the third method, which is what you may have seen if you've watched a high score video from Zimny or myself or somebody, is basically just going where you know the materials will be, or where you know things like the gadgets will be, and that requires quite a bit of experience, or at least going and asking in the Discord and asking people how to figure out where these things are going to be. And unfortunately, it's going to vary by map and game mode, so I can't give you an exact idea of where you need to look to find your resources. but can kind of start with the idea that two veins of iron are not going to be immediately next to each other. So you can sort of imagine a triangle in your head of like distances between resources, and you don't have to use this. I'm just trying to give some context for how I'm like mining over there to find that iron. And then based on having found the iron on the sides there, I can predict now, okay, there should be some iron kind of below me. And it might be a little off to one of the sides, like that. So this is me just kind of going where I know things will be. And then I know on the prestige maps that the first gadget tends to be around the divider between the first and second layer. And then it's going to be like 15 or 16 blocks apart and on the opposite side for the next gadget. But in these challenges, it's going to not necessarily follow that. So point just being, I would not recommend you do all of your drilling based on where it's easiest to drill. I would recommend either trying to get a sense of where things will be based on, like I said, the principle that you're not going to have two veins of iron right next to each other, or just drill in straight lines across. I think that's a totally fine strategy, but if you're going to do that, please do not mine too close together. So let's say you started here. I would actually probably start like one block further down, but doesn't matter. People a lot of the time will think, okay, if I go here and I drill this far apart, I can never miss any materials in between these two horizontal lines. While that's true, it will take you forever. So what I would recommend instead is drilling about 4 blocks in between. And when I say about 4, I mean 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're going to do your horizontal mining like this, I would recommend you start with that approach, and you might miss some things, but you're gonna save a lot of time compared to if you mine too close together, and the percent of iron veins you miss is gonna be very low. You're more likely to miss water and cobalt, which tends to be less relevant, and you'll find just about all the iron. So that's that. And then generally speaking, all else the same. The order of the first few upgrades that I would take is first your drill. So let me just go up there and show. First I would take the 4-cost drill upgrade. Then usually the 4-cost carrying, then the 4-cost speed, and then the 8-cost drill. Or the 8-cost carrying. It's kind of flexible, and I'll talk about that as I get into the specific challenges. So I don't know how long that sort of introduction was. In my head, I was going to be a little bit more succinct with it, but there you go. So I'll get into the specific of each of these challenges, and I might not talk about them in order because I don't think doing them in order is necessarily the easiest thing. So the reason why is these Keeper's Guild rewards. When you beat an assignment, you get 1 badge. If you beat it on the challenge difficulty, you get 2 badges. So like 2 total, not 1, and then another 2. And then you can spend these to unlock these. They each have a specific cost, but I can't see the costs since I already have them all unlocked. I'll show you the order that I would recommend getting them, but you can't really respec if you've already picked something. So don't worry if you've already picked something that's like not in the order that I'm saying. It's not that big of a deal. So the first thing I would get is probably a weapon supplement. Reason being, the weapon supplements, especially for the laser, are just so incredibly impactful that you need them to survive in a lot of these challenges. The bomb tip for the sword is like that as well. So I would get this first, and you can maybe unlock this before you take on some of the harder combat challenges. Then I'd go for gadget supplements. They can be pretty powerful. I think it's valuable to, in some order, get the 3 offered for the gadgets and supplements. Then I would usually probably go with the free rerolls, and then the rerolls you can spend water on. At some point you can get the permanent hostile proximity meter. You can get that before the rerolls if you really want to. Then maybe permanent health meter, and the rest of it just get whenever you feel like it. The advanced battle statistics right now literally only show how much damage you did with each weapon and how much damage you took from each monster. It's not that important. I would get it last. So that's what I would recommend there. And then know that up here you'll have an option for an additional gadget in a lot of these challenges. The only one I believe that doesn't start you with any is the upside down challenge. Most of them give you 1 or 2 additional starting gadgets. You can go over here and select those. However, you have to have won a run in any game mode using that gadget to unlock it. So if you are having a hard time with the challenges because you don't have your additional gadgets, either play some of the assignments on the regular difficulty, the easier difficulty, and get some unlocked, but or the such as you can go to relic hunt mode, play whatever map size and difficulty you want, and get them that way. Okay, now I actually start talking about assignments, and like I mentioned, I already did a tier list of these based on how difficult I think they are, as well as how fun I think they are. You kind of unlock them as you go, so you have to do them in kind of the order that they go, if you haven't already beat them on the regular difficulty. So I think I would first recommend doing the iron contribution, because this is a challenge that you can do without needing any additional supplements. If you haven't unlocked the weapon supplements and you haven't unlocked the gadget supplements yet, it's fine. You can just start on this one because there's plenty of time. There's no combat whatsoever. You can just go. So my recommended setup for this would be to take the Resource Packer, Drone Yard, and Tesla Dome. The reasoning for the Tesla Dome here when there's no combat is that it's just a little bit of a smaller distance for your drones to travel when they're bringing your resources up for you. It's not really that important. It doesn't matter very much. I did do this challenge with no extra gadget before I even knew that the additional gadget was a thing. That's true. but certainly with the additional gadget, it's not too bad. So the strategy with Resource Backer and Drone Yard, which is also the strategy in the Prestige Miner mode right now, where I'm like 6th place or something at the moment of the non-cheated scores. You just get the Resource Packer fully upgraded and get your drones full speed and like 11 quantity, more or less. And it's going to be enough that you just never have to go up to the top. If you can also get the underground station, then that lets you buy upgrades from down in your mine somewhere. You could also use the teleporter to teleport up and buy the upgrades. Obviously, if you don't have either of those things, then yes, you do still have to go up to buy your upgrades and stuff. But it's just very nice to save yourself the time. You can take, if you have the gadget supplement, the supplement for the underground station, which is a mini map. It's called Cartography. It's a mini map that lets you see like 12 tiles in each direction of where you've been, and it reveals the resources and everything to you. So it makes it so easy to find the iron clusters that you need. And if you're drilling, if you're doing your horizontal strip mining, you can, instead of going like 4 across, you can go like 12 across and save yourself so much time. You don't have to use those gadgets. You can use basically whatever setup you want. I think it's a lenient enough challenge that you can probably get by with whatever setup. But that's how I would recommend. So Showdown. Showdown is the same thing, except at the end, if you didn't get enough iron, you die because you have to fight. There is kind of a workaround, though. You can get, well, it's not a full workaround. It's just a little bit of a cheese. You can get the supplement Dome Resurrection. You don't have to unlock that. It's just already unlocked. It will revive your dome once in a combat and give you like 30 seconds of an invulnerability. At least that's what it is at the time of recording. And that is a lot of invulnerability, especially when you only have one combat, so you don't care if you use it up. But I would recommend just getting, laser is probably what I would recommend. Drone Yard is still good, but if you're more comfortable with shield or something, that's fine. Do basically the same strategy as you would in Iron Contribution, except, pick up some upgrades for your weapon at the end. Obviously, there's no need to upgrade your weapon as you go. Just like spend a bunch early. If you need a guideline, then I would say spend your first 10 waves upgrading your keeper, and then the last 10 waves, more or less, stockpiling up resources to upgrade your weapon and your dome's HP and all that good stuff. You're going to benefit an awful lot from having weapon supplements unlocked at this point. Getting the supplement for laser, which is the double laser, makes it much, much better. And the other weapon supplements are relevant as well. I'm not so much an expert on playing with artillery and Tesla Dome, but they are reasonably strong right now, so no reason why you can't use them. Upside Down's an interesting one. I'm gonna do I want to come back to it? So I think this is the hardest challenge, but I do want to go through these in relative order so that if someone's skipping around through the video, they can find it. So let me go into this one. This is the only one where you don't get to start with an additional, gadget. So that makes this a lot harder than most of the challenges. It's also got some of the most difficult extra conditions on challenge mode. If you're playing on regular, you don't have the additional wave strength, so that's not an issue. But if you're playing on challenge mode, it's got some of the hardest extra wave strength of any of these challenges. Like if you look at all of these, there's some of them that have the same wave difficulty, but not really any that are harder. So you have difficult combats, you have no additional gadget, but you have the benefit of having gravity work for you. So let me show you sort of how I would approach this. This is with laser and drone yard right now still. The drone yard, in addition to being very beneficial for your mining, is actually just probably the best combat, or one of the best combat domes to have. So there's not much downside to it right now. So you just want to be able to sled your resources over, well, I kind of overshot there, to your center line and have them just drop into your dome for you. Use the gravity to your advantage. So that means to be able to sled the resources across like that, you're going to want to have these straight horizontal lines. Then you can just push them towards the center. Maybe do a little bit better of a job than me. And just like that, I have brought up way more resources to the top than you would normally expect to on the first wave. And for any of these challenges where you've got a lot of extra wave strength early, I would suggest buying weapon upgrades earlier than you normally would. I would normally never buy laser power on wave 1, but here where I know the combat's going to be a lot harder, I might as well. I also know that once I get my weapon supplement, the double laser, it's going to seem much easier by comparison. So I might as well try to just save as much life as I can until then and go from there. So there's another approach you could take that I haven't tried out, but I want to acknowledge it, and I think it's an interesting idea you can try, which is vertical strip mining like this. The idea being that no matter where you are, it's going to drop your resources towards near the top. If you have drones, they'll get them from there, and it'll be a pretty short distance for them. And if you don't have drones, you can just quickly grab them when you go up to the top. So just vertically mining 4 apart, or however many apart, is another approach, like you can see I did over here. Now I would have to go and sled these to the center, but that doesn't take that long. Pick a gadget. I don't care for any of these gadgets particularly, but take whatever you want. None of them are completely horrible and will make you lose instantly or anything. I'm not going to play out a whole run here right now. I just kind of wanted to show my approach. So this remote upgrades is really important if you take the underground station like I just did, try to not forget to buy this upgrade when you get the station, because you can end up in a situation that I find myself in all too often, trying to upgrade from down in the mine and not realizing that you forgot to buy that upgrade. So that's my approach here. Take one of the two suggestions, either the vertical strip mining like this, or just horizontal, but being sure to leave as easy of a time as possible for yourself to drag your resources to the center line. Let them drop towards the center for you. And that's pretty much it for that one. It is one of the more challenging, for sure. It is one of the more challenging of the assignments, but I believe in you. You can do it. Maze. So for the maze, I used the teleporter, laser dome, and drone yard. You'll find that I used the laser dome and drone yard for a lot of these. The laser dome is just the easiest to use, and it's perfectly adequate for all these challenges. Not necessarily the best, but it's adequate. And the drone yard is just very powerful right now. It's a fantastic stream. Thank you. I appreciate that. So for the maze, the main thing I want to mention here is the keeper supplement for the engineer, which is power drill. It lets you drill through bedrock like this. So it basically completely negates the challenge of the maze. I mean, not completely, but it largely negates the challenge of the maze. So that is a keeper supplement, which means it doesn't need to be unlocked down here. You already have it unlocked. Teleporter is just nice. You don't have to use it by any means, but it's nice when you're in a twisty kind of, well, maze. Hello, let me skip. I wouldn't bother with the teleport resources supplement for the teleporter, but it's like it's fine. You can certainly use it. I just don't know that I personally would want to. So I don't know that there's too much I want to show here, actually. Other than to sort of say, you know, the whole challenge of this is that we have a lot of this like bedrock undrillable material right here, and just kind of generally getting in your way. If you get the power drill supplement, that's not a problem. You can just drill right through it, which is especially useful once you find the wires leading to the relic. You can just, actually follow those wires instead of having to take super twisty paths. So this is one where I would really say, do not play the assessor. I mean, you can if you want, but you're going to be making it way harder on yourself. I actually like blast mining for a lot of these challenges. Again, it's one that you really don't have to use, but for something like this, oops, I didn't actually mean to go in there. It can be nice to just like clear out an area to see what you're working with, you know what I mean? Other than that, I don't have too much to say about this challenge. I guess I should say the supplements are the things you find in the mine that are like circles that cost 1 water to unlock. The ones that are big squares are gadgets. I'm sure you've seen them, but you know, in case you didn't know the nomenclature. So that's the first 4. Next one's Projectile Hell. And this is one where I actually took a little bit of a different approach than just laser drone yard and packer. I believe I used the shield and the laser dome and the spire. Laser is good because you can dissolve projectiles, but it's not even really that important. Let me just show you the spire upgrade path a little bit, give you a sense. I think that this challenge can be beaten pretty easily by rushing energy trap. So, and it's not the only approach to beating this. I've seen other ways that people do this, but if you can, I mean, first of all, still take the base level of upgrades for your keeper first, but take one of these 2 upgrade paths. They're both honestly about equal. And then take one of these 2 paths. For this challenge, I would really suggest Energy Trap, even though most of the time I would use Split. This just, well, it says right there, it creates an energy trap that will catch more projectiles. So when you just have a bunch of projectiles coming at you, having a trap that catches a bunch of projectiles is very useful. And then, you know, from there you can upgrade it more. Do your best with that. Take your normal weapon upgrades, all that goodness. For the shield, the reason you take shield would be that you can use reflection. You can take the reflection path, but you could also take orchard. You could, instead of using the shield, you could use the orchard, which has a projectile based path that gives you like a big shield of leaves or whatever. That's fine too. You can use invulnerability and use the spire to deal with the projectiles, whatever you feel like. The other thing to know is the dissolve projectiles function of your laser will largely make the challenge not challenging at all, especially if you have double laser, because at that point it doesn't really matter how strong your weapon is. Even if you only have the 12 power upgrade, the 12 cost power upgrade, if you have dissolve projectiles and you can easily shoot down all the projectiles, I mean, eventually you'll kill everything and they'll never kill you. So it can be tough in the first few waves, which is why I would say rush out that energy trap on the spire, but you know, you can do it with a different path if you want. Dense iron. I think it doesn't actually remember your gadget that you used. It's just going to keep whatever I had. So for some of these I used shield. For some of these I used drone yard. If I don't mention either of them specifically, then, you know, take your pick. I used iron worms here, so the challenge is that it takes forever to mine iron, and there are a few different approaches you can use to deal with that. You pretty much have to, I mean, you don't have to, but you pretty much have to use the additional gadget function here, or otherwise you're just going to be miserable. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. I don't think it's even going to be possible without starting with some of these gadgets. So you can use the suit blaster or the blast mining to mine out the rocks that are really hard for you to mine, or you can just use the thing that it seems like the challenge was made specifically for, which is iron worms. So, I run worms. How do they work? How do they do it? What do they do? You pick them up from your base, you drop them on or next to some iron, and they will latch on and mine it all out for you, so you don't have to be able to drill it out. Let me just show you the upgrade paths I would take. You're still going to want to upgrade yourself a good bit, including the drill strength, because you got to mine out all the other blocks. You don't really have to upgrade your drill strength as much if you're going with like the suit blaster or blast mining route, which is fine too. If you are going to play with ironworms, I would very, very strongly recommend taking the quick worms path over the diligent worms path. I know a lot of people see this and think, getting additional resources out of each block is so powerful. Give me the 2 additional resources. But the amount of time that it takes up is going to just offset all of the benefit. Whereas if you can get quick worms, everything's just so instantaneous. It's fantastic. I love it. It's great. You don't need to take double worm potentially ever, but at least you don't need to take it until pretty late. So what you can do, every time you're leaving the base, if there's a worm ready, pick it up, drop it, even if you don't have a place to use it. And it's just gonna stay there and wait for you. And the next one will start recharging in pace. So you can just have them like stockpiled a bit, and that way not really need to buy this upgrade that gives you extra worm production. Now if you find yourself at a want for worms, then buy this upgrade. By that point you're probably doing alright. That's all I got for this challenge. If you do choose to use the suit blaster, I would say that it gains a lot of power when it's basically fully upgraded, and it kind of is weak at first. So if you're trying the suit blaster and you're thinking, wow, this sucks, see if you can upgrade it a couple more times. I know that sounds obvious, but I think it benefits more from being upgraded than a lot of things do. That makes sense. Next challenge is Barren Lands. Resources are rare and far apart. Its rock is very brittle, and by brittle they mean easy to mine. So again, use shield or drone yard, or if you're adventurous, use repellent or orchard. Also, maybe they've been buffed by the time you're seeing this video. I start with the prospecting meter on this one. So the prospecting meter will give you an idea of where things are. If you want, you can also opt for the underground station with the intent to pick up the supplement that gives you a mini-map. That's an option. But I like starting with the prospecting meter here because you already know the resources are going to be far apart, but it's so quick and easy to mine through on this map that you can just kind of, sweep side to side and use your little metal detector like an old guy on the beach or something. I say that. I've been to the beach here many times. I don't know that I've ever seen someone with a metal detector. But in my head, that's what you do. So this is one where I would maybe just recommend mining out in a horizontal line from the center, and then using your prospecting meter whenever something pops up to find the next bit of resources. And if you're not familiar with the prospecting meter, it's this little meter right above the bar that tells you how long until the next wave. So right there you see a little square and then a bar next to it. It'll light up when I'm within proximity of a piece of iron. And then as you upgrade it, you can upgrade it to show water and cobalt. You can upgrade the range and the scan speed. I would highly recommend only buying the first range upgrade, because when you have the second range upgrade, it can start to like detect things that are so far away that it's just making things more confusing. I find that upgrade is basically spending 9 resources to make yourself more confused. Hey Zimni, what am I doing? I'm going through each challenge and giving some tips for each challenge, as well as just some general tips for Dome Keeper. So here's a tip. If you're playing this as a real run, you should try to be at the dome when combats are gonna happen. Unlike myself right now. I was just trying to demonstrate, though, how to use this proximity meter, but it's going to be a lot more useful once you can get that first range upgrade and the scan speed upgrade. And then, you know, actually take your fights. That's Barren Lands. Defective Weapon. Your dome's main weapon has been destroyed, so you'll need to survive by other means. So you don't actually get to fight. Well, you get to fight. You just don't get to fight with your main weapon. There are still weapons that you can activate in combat, like the Shockwave Hammer, as well as the automatic weapons like the autocannon. You start with 2 additional starting gadgets. I used Shockwave Hammer and Teleporter in my run. Teleporter could be whatever. Shockwave Hammer, at least at the time of making this, is incredibly powerful. It is such a nice way to pick off small monsters in this mode too, because if you're using something like an autocannon, it can be a great source of damage, but when there's a bunch of things on the screen, the Shockwave Hammer is like your only real option of a weapon in this challenge that's gonna deal damage to everything. Barring, like, I don't know, potentially big upgrades on the stun laser. I mean, you can go with the stun laser and then get the supplement and stuff, but yeah, I would go start out with the Shockwave Hammer for sure. The Spire, yeah, you can definitely use the Spire in this mode. It's pretty good. You can use there's another tower thing that's like it launches out little rockets. I don't think it's all that good, but you know, it's fine. It's if you're trying to make do with what's being offered to you, there's no reason why you can't use that. So the downside, I guess, if you can call it that, of the Shockwave Hammer is that you do actually have to be at your combats. Like, you have to press the button to activate the shockwave and then wait for the cooldown and press it again. Whereas if you have something like the autocannon, it just goes on its own. Shockwave hammer upgrade path. You're gonna wanna upgrade damage for sure, because damage is good. There's probably like a way to make the stun capabilities good. I would just avoid both of the stun upgrades personally, because they make the cooldown take longer before you can use the hammer again. So you can just take the damage upgrades. You can take the supplement, which is another big damage upgrade based on a percentage of the damage you already have. And that will end up dealing most of your damage. Drones are great here, because the battle drones will just launch off on their own and fight on their own. I would take battle grid, quick drones, and go this upgrade path. I don't think the fights are going to go long enough that you necessarily need long-lasting drones, but that's probably a fine path to take as well, if you want. That's about it. That's about it. It's worth knowing that these gadgets take up a specific slot, and it tells you this when you go to take them, but it can be like easy to miss. So like the shockwave hammer goes on the surface of the dome, as does, for example, the buzzsaw thing that I'm not seeing here. So maybe I've never won a run that I took it. But that just means you can't have both of those. You can only have one in each slot, except in the cellar you can have two, the ones that go like, right below your dome. So you can't have like the laser and the autocannon. I would go with the shockwave hammer here, and since you can't have the spire alongside the rocket launcher thing, I would probably pick spire if I had the choice between those two. Those are my thoughts on this. Heavy hitters. I'm gonna do something that might shock you here. I used sword for this one. This might have been one of the ones I used shield on as well. I'm not sure. I do think drone yard is perfectly fine for every one of these challenges, but shield is fine too. Sword is gonna make this a lot easier, in my experience. The melee monsters tend to be ones that are easier to deal with the sword, and let me just load up into this. So I used the resource packer on this one, which is just generally a good gadget to help you bring stuff up, but also probably means you can basically use whichever gadget you like. So you're gonna want to take slice upgrades, and then I would probably recommend long blade, but live your life. You don't really need to upgrade your stab much, and you don't need to upgrade your reflection at all. So that's the really nice thing about taking sword for this challenge. You don't have to buy a lot of the upgrades that you would normally take with the sword. Now, it can be nice to have some additional stab damage to hit enemies before they get to you, but especially the reflection upgrades that you would normally probably want to have, you can just ignore completely. So that's what I would do there. You can pick up whichever gadgets you like, but if you are struggling to kill big beefy targets, then something like the autocannon with the shotgun upgrade path could be good. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard challenge, whatever that means. Swiss cheese. Rock is extremely dense but riddled with natural caves. So I think this is a great opportunity to use some kind of explosive. You can use blast mining or you can use the suit blaster. What I would say is I think the suit blaster benefits a lot from being fully upgraded, like I mentioned earlier. I think blast mining benefits an awful lot from the blast mining supplement. So you would need to have gadget supplements unlocked down here. The blast mining supplement will give you 3 bombs instead of 1, which I'm sure you can imagine is a big improvement. But let me load in with the suit blaster here. Take a look at the upgrade path a little bit. It's going to be a long video. You know what you signed up for if you clicked on it, though. So, when I used the iron worms before, they were really good because it was just the iron that's hard to mine. Here, when you have these pockets like this, you have a lot of disconnected iron where it's really only like a little bit. Okay, well, maybe this was not a great example right here, but you'll have a big open area and not a lot of big iron clusters connected to each other. And maybe it's not the greatest example because you usually don't have big clusters at the top, but point just being, I think explosives are probably a better approach here. And alternatively, you could just like upgrade your drill a lot, or you could play Assessor. But explosives are fun. Why not, right? Why not give it a try? Everything else is pretty standard. I mean, I have the shield on right now, but you can use the drone yard certainly. For the suit blaster, all of these upgrades are kind of incredible. So you pretty much want to rush them all as soon as possible, which is not like the most helpful advice. So I guess the better advice would be to get the cheapest ones first. Like this is only 1 iron and 1 water. Like get that early and then just go based on cost from there. That's what I would do. If you're gonna use the suit blaster, you certainly don't have to. Logistical problem. Keeper's transportation tools are damaged. You will need to rely on gadgets. So, this one, you've got a couple of options. One of them is to play Assessor. And Trailcast just wrote, Assessor mentioned take a shot, everyone. You might have to take a second shot. So, it doesn't... this challenge doesn't really do anything to Assessor, but for me personally, playing Assessor would be a bigger challenge than doing this challenge. And I still thought this was one of the harder ones, but here's a place where Drone Yard is really, really good. Resource Packer is really, really good. And the strategy that ends up being the best is basically the same strategy that I would recommend for Miner mode and Prestige, which I mentioned a bit earlier. You just want to upgrade your Resource Packer, and specifically, you should get this bundle size 1 upgrade really early. very helpful to pack 7 things together instead of 4, because you're gonna pretty quickly be getting to veins that have 7 plus iron. Take these upgrades as you can. One nice tip: whenever you buy charges, it refreshes all of your charges. So you can intentionally not buy multiple charges at a time, so that when you go back to buy more, they're instantly refreshed. That's just a little tip from me to you. Or you could just buy them all. So you can see here I can't purchase carrying speed. So you can just rely on your drones to transport stuff for you. It's gonna cost you a decent bit of water to do that, but you know, just upgrade the speed 5 times and then buy probably 11 transport drones. You can go for 16 if you're feeling adventurous, or 7 if you're feeling not adventurous. So then I would probably re-roll for the underground station as my first gadget. Well, my first one that I didn't start with. And then try to pick up the supplement for it, which is the mini map. And at that point, you can just do the strategy that I talked about earlier, where you mine about 12 blocks apart horizontally, which will illuminate your mini map for you, show you where all the goods are, can mine them out, bundle them together using the resource packer, then rely on your drones to carry everything up for you, and then you can go and purchase upgrades at the underground station. And you can fight from there as well. High risk. And I guess I'll mention also, you can do this with just the resource packer and the drone yard. You don't have to use the station, but the packer and the drone yard I would strongly recommend. Okay. High risk. Corrosive atmosphere of this planet is lethal for your dome and the monsters, making both take more damage. So this is just a challenge of getting to the wave on time, which I know is easier said than done. Trust me. But I don't think the combats are very difficult in this, and I used laser for this one, big surprise. Looks like I used blast mining, but maybe I just felt like it. You can use whatever. The shockwave hammer seems like it would be incredibly powerful here. I believe there's a strategy where you can go repellent and shockwave hammer, and then let me show the repellent upgrade tree here. So the idea there is, if you take Wither, which causes monsters to take additional damage, and they're already taking additional damage, and then you use your shockwave hammer, everything's gonna die in one hit. I don't think that's necessary. I think the shockwave hammer will already kill most things in one hit, even without the Wither. But it's a strategy to consider for sure. I would maybe recommend the shield, because it will soak up a bit of damage if you are not so good at getting to the wave on time. So I would use the shield with the invulnerability upgrade path, but whatever you want works fine there. And then for your first supplement, if you're playing laser, try to get the double laser right away. Next challenge is monster masses, and this one's annoying. Planet is plagued by vast amounts of low tier monsters. So my problem with this one is that it's a difficult first few waves, and then it just never gets any more difficult. The waves never get stronger, they just get longer, because you don't get any higher tier monsters, and the game won't spawn in like more monsters at the same time. So you just have to like fight longer and longer fights, which can be kind of annoying to me. But what it means effectively is that you want to take things that will make you strong in the early combats. The Shockwave Hammer, for example, is a great thing to start out with, since most of the challenge in this will be in the first few waves. So I want to like get to the first combat here just to show what we're looking at. So let me do some regular old mining. I still have the shield equipped, which is fine. But it does mean I need to be a little bit more mindful of when I'm leaving resources behind, because usually when I'm leaving like one thing behind like that, I'm just relying on a drone to come get it later. And you can see I'm prioritizing just grabbing the iron early. Certainly I'll grab those other resources later on in the run, but the most important thing for me to do early is to just get my keeper upgraded, and that'll get me, you know, rolling, so to speak. It'll get my economy going. And there you can see me kind of doing what I talked about before, which is sort of going where I think the resources will be, which I understand is not the most helpful advice, but I did talk about it a little more in detail earlier. So you can see I'm not just mining a straight line across. Although if you did, you probably wouldn't miss much. So I only got one water there. If I had gotten two, I could consider buying this Shockwave upgrade. It also would have been nice if I had brought up one more iron to get either of these first upgrades for the laser, but I didn't, so let's just do the fight. So you can see like I'm already getting some types of monsters that you wouldn't expect to see for quite a few waves normally. So I will take some hits, but the shockwave is making it a lot less scary. And you can time it a little better so that the shockwave is like breaking the stones that get thrown by this thing. So like if I want to shoot over here and then... Okay, well it didn't break it. Maybe don't listen to me. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. No, I'm guessing you just need to have one damage upgrade on the shockwave before it breaks those. That's my bad. I make mistakes too. So buy the damage upgrade and then do that. But yeah, the combats don't really get harder than that. They just get longer. So if you can just ride out the first few waves, still upgrade your keeper a bit like I did, but then like this wave I can just bring up some of this healing just in case I need it, as well as buy something like laser power, and then if I get a little more iron I can buy the laser speed and, you know, live my best life. Again, I would really strongly recommend going for a weapon. Oh, didn't mean to do that. A weapon supplement as your first supplement. So something like the double laser. And that's going to make your life a lot easier. Iron shortage. The planet contains far too little iron for a normal mining operation. That's no problem for me. I'm normal enough for the both of us. For a guy like me. So I did this with blast mining and suit blaster because I'm normal. I did it because I'm normal. Another approach that would probably make a lot of sense, and maybe you would even say more sense, could be to go for a resource converter and then start converting something like excess water into additional iron. Oh my god. I can't drink water correctly. There's something wrong with me. It's just a coughing stream. How much of the video is dedicated to coughing alone? Yeah, so you know, you can do this challenge with basically whatever you want. Obviously, you're going to be low on iron, so it would be useful to get more iron with something like a resource converter. But let me show what this actually looks like for a specific purpose that I will not tell you about. Kaboom. Okay, I'll tell you about it in a second. So this is only a single block of iron. And I point that out because if you saw, you know, okay, there's less iron on the map, so I am going to use the thing that gets me more iron, which is the iron worms, because they add additional iron to what they mine out. It's a nice thought. In practice, because the actual veins of iron are smaller, they have less connected blocks, you'll be pretty far down before any given worm is giving you more than like 2 additional iron. Like, it's just not as useful as you might initially think, because there's not enough blocks of iron for the worms to mine out. You feel me? Also, if you hold pick up and drop at the same time, you can make the resources do this. It's like you're zapping them. It's not useful. I just enjoy it personally. And like, it's a video game, so I feel like that's, if anything, more important than any of the other tips I've given you. I don't know, was any of this helpful? Maybe. What do I have left? 2 of them? 2 of them. The drop trick? Alright, I'll show the drop trick. It's really hard for me to do with my controls, but I'll show it. Mining tools are damaged. You need to rely on gadgets. First, let me show the drop trick. So let's say, and this is primarily used with exactly 4 resources at like the start of the run. You're gonna be slowed down a certain amount by carrying 4 resources instead of, say, 3. So what you can do is, as you're moving up, oh my god, I have to launch into a run because I have too much speed in the menu. Let me launch into a run and show you. I have to hack into the mainframe. Let me hack into the mainframe real quick. What is this video? Okay. Oh, of course it gives me 3. It's trying to show you something very important here. Alright, are you excited like I am? So, I'm trying to carry 4 resources up, but that's slow and nobody has time for that, right? So what if I were carrying 3 resources, but then I just pick up the 4th one real fast as I go? Makes me a little faster. So you just drop it and pick it up in quick succession as you go up. The thing is, it's like if you ever drop a single resource like I did right there, all of the benefit is negated, and it was like a relatively little benefit that you've now pretty significantly lost. It's also really hard for me to do with the IJKL controls that I play right now. I play a kind of insane setup. It's IJKL, but it's not mirrored IJKL. So like, it would make more sense if the normal WASD, if I had mapped like the E key to the U. You have to look at your keyboard to get what I'm saying here, because those would both be keys that correspond to my pointer fingers, pew pew, on each hand. I didn't do that. I didn't mirror it. So like the E key in my setup is bound to the O. I don't know if anyone cares about this. Point is, I play a very strange setup, and at this point I'm kind of used to it, so it's just what I'm dealing with. I wouldn't recommend using my controls, but if you're curious, they look like this. They do look like this. And then, anyway, lets me play with just my right hand. Did I even talk about mining problem? Nope, not at all. Keeper's mining tools are damaged. You'll need to rely on gadgets. It's a perfect time to use explosions. You can't upgrade your drill, but you can use explosions. So I like the suit blaster here. I used iron worms as well. You don't really need them, but I mean, they don't hurt. Certainly you can use drone yard, whatever. I don't know that there's too much for me to show on this one that I haven't already shown. It's not too challenging or crazy. It might be useful for you to take like the drilling rig, which will drill straight down for you, and then you can upgrade it to have side drillers. It's a perfectly reasonable approach to this challenge as well. You could take Drillbert. I wouldn't. You still will need to be able to like drill down to place Drillbert in a spot where he's going to be useful, but I'm not going to deny you the chance to play Drillbert, okay? And then the final challenge is Cobalt Contribution. I don't think this is one of the harder ones. Guild is in urgent need of cobalt and requests that you deliver a lot of cobalt quickly. So the thing is, can I tell you the thing? Will you listen to the thing? The thing about this one is that it's basically just like playing normal Dome Keeper. It's what in my mind is normal Dome Keeper, which is not actually normal, because the normal mode is Relic Hunt, but I've played so much Prestige that to me this feels like a normal Prestige run, in the sense that you're just trying to mine stuff out, fight off waves, and stock up enough extra cobalt. In prestige mode, that would be, you know, to send away to get extra score. In this, it's to, you know, defeat the challenge. I didn't find this one all that difficult. I used the resource packer and presumably laser and drone yard. I don't know that there's too much to say about this one because there's not anything that like makes the challenge tricky or weird or unique. Like if I load into a run to look at it, it's just going to look like the start of any other run in history. You just have to try to look. I understand that what I'm about to say is going to be like a big obvious moment, like duh, thank you Lilnenko, we understand this. You got to try to save up your cobalt. That's all there is to it. You got to save up your cobalt. It's not a helpful piece of information, but it is the truth. So what does that mean? It means don't take so much damage. It means get better at combat, or just get better at mining out resources efficiently so that you can upgrade your weapon quickly, so that you are adequately prepared for your combats. And I guess the final piece of advice that I will give you on this one, I'll make it 2 final pieces of advice, 2 for the price of 0. The first one is I would not recommend using the resource converter to get extra cobalt because it's going to take you a really long time to convert to cobalt, and it's just not really going to be worth it to you. And the second piece of the final advice is you can shred your gadgets and supplements for cobalt. So you can bring up a gadget or a supplement to the surface, and if you don't want it, shred it for extra cobalt. It can be a great way to get a few extra cobalt or a lot of extra cobalt if you're not quite getting enough in time. Maybe you've tried the challenge before and you're not quite getting it within the 18 cycles. Like, consider which of your gadgets and supplements you're actually getting a lot of value out of, and then shred everything else. So I'm not saying shred everything, take nothing, but maybe only take 1 or 2 each of supplements, and then shred anything else that you find on top of that. That's it. That's as in-depth as I can go with how to beat every assignment without actually showing you a run of every single assignment. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them to me in the comments of the YouTube section, or the comments of the YouTube section, whatever, you know what I mean. Or, you know, if you're watching this live on Twitch, send a carrier pigeon to my home. But I think that's about it.